The profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.
Good afternoon and welcome to Engage for Success radio show number 594, the biggest myth about leadership. Today we're going to be talking about the one thing every boss should stop doing and one thing they should start doing. That's intriguing. I'm Jo Dodds, your host for today. I'm an engagement consultant working within the Engage for Success core team. The Engage for Success movement is an inclusive movement committed to the idea that there is a better way to work by releasing more of the capability and potential of people at work. We spread the word about employee engagement and shine a light on good practice, inspiring people and workplaces to thrive. We're widely supported across the UK, involving the public, private and third sectors. If you go to our website, engageforsuccess.org, you can use the link at the bottom of the page to join our newsletter list, and all our social media links are there too. My guest today is Claudia D. Thompson, who's author of Take Charge, the Boss Method. Welcome, Claudia. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Jo.
Lovely. So start by telling us a bit about who you are and what you do. I guess a bit about the book.
Okay, cool. How long have you got? It started probably need to. I don't want to bore anyone, but yeah. So I did a business degree at university, and then I had this natural arrogance that comes with a business degree and I thought I had figured business out. I know how everything works. I know how businesses work, and that lasted until I actually started my first job. And I then found, actually it's a lot more complicated than what they teach you at university. So now here we are 20 years later, I've worked in all sorts of businesses, from software to fashion. I've led teams, I've led projects, and I found after a while that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, the same problems can occur, whether it's a software IT business or a government organization. And the things that make teams click or not click are actually quite universal. So I thought that there's a business there, or there is a need there in the market to help business owners create better teams and help them lead the team. And that's this whole story, how do I become a great leader and so on. So I started my own business called The Business Fabric, and then I found I was giving people the same advice repeatedly, and I realized people don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be any different than they are. They just need a strategy and a process. So, and I found myself just giving them the same tips and the same pieces of advice, taught them the same method. So that's when I decided I could just write it down in a book and help people that way. And that's how the book Take Charge came to be.
Lovely. I could just write it down in a book. That makes it sound like it's a very simple and quick process.
It was actually for me, and there's so many people that I talk to and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe you wrote a book. And I've always been meaning to write one, but I think writing was always my medium. And I think from a very, very young age I knew I had to write a book at one point, and that obviously went from, at one point it had to be a big fiction piece, to no, let's make it more pragmatic and stay in the non-fiction business arena that actually helps people.
Yes, yeah. Okay, cool. So the book's called Take Charge, the Boss Method, and so it's a title, but it's also a bit of a call to action. So what are you asking people to take charge of?
Okay, it's actually the original title. Well, there were plenty of titles I went through, but then the very close to the finished title was In Charge. But then I thought, nah, something's missing, something's not quite right. And then actually a very dear friend of mine said, well, how about Take Charge? And then that's when it all clicked into place. And I realized, yes, because in order to be a great boss and to be the leader, you have to take charge. And being in charge or being in charge is really just about having a certain title, which in most cases is the boss. But taking charge means to be more purposeful. And it's about, take charge of your role as a boss. So not just a business owner. It's not just something that you happen to do or something that you are. But you also have to, you have the chance to create your life. You can create your business. You can create your own mindset, but giving it all purpose. So instead of firefighting and always just reacting, you have the chance to take charge of it all, and set your own rules, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the boss method is part of the title. What is the boss method? That's probably the next 3 hours, not the next 25 minutes. So
so here is the book in about a 2-minute summary. It's the method or the process that I take my I always say my business owners through is a 4-step process, and that happens to or boss happens to be a 4-letter word. So I thought, that's an acronym there. So the first step is to be the boss your business needs. And that is all about finding your own strength as a business owner. So I need to say the book is written for the business owner. So it's about finding your own strength, finding out, are you more of a leader naturally? Are you more a manager? What makes you tick? How do you rediscover your Kindle? No, how do you? There's a mix of rekindle and rediscover. No, but how do you rediscover your motivation that made you start the business in the first place? So the first step is all about the business owner, the mindset, getting in the right mood almost to move on from there. Then the second step is the O, which is for organize the ideal. And that is all about, how do you want your business to look? What do you want your life to look like? When do you want to retire? How big do you want to build the business? Are you a global business? Are you regional? Are you the best in the area? How many members of staff have you got? So that's all about goal setting and painting that ideal of that business that you're building. Then we get to the first S, which is to survey your current reality. So that is probably the bit that you at Engaged for Success are most familiar with as well. That's about finding out, how engaged is my team right now? Do they enjoy coming to work? What processes are working? What processes are not working? So to really critically look at everything that is going on in your business right now, to then decide, okay, what are we continuing? What are we changing? What are we dropping? And so on. And then that leads perfectly to the 4th step, which is strategize and make it happen. So you take all the findings from the first 3 steps and put them into a strategy that you can then work towards for long-term success.
Lovely. That was a good
and breathe.
Exactly. So you're often working with business owners who never plan to be bosses. I guess people start businesses because they want to provide a service, make money, help people, all sorts of things. They don't always sort of go, I want to manage people. What do you think the biggest myth that they've been sold about leadership is?
So it's exactly as you say. So many business owners, they start their business because they are passionate about something, or they just don't want to work for someone else, or they see a gap in the market, and then suddenly it actually works and it's picking up, and then all of a sudden they see themselves faced with 10 pairs of eyes that look at them for direction, and they're like, how do I actually do this thing? And I think that leads into the biggest myth. And I think that is that a lot of, especially the big gurus out there, the leadership guys and gals, they almost make it seem like leadership is something you're either born with or you're not. It's always like, yeah, you be the leader, and you're a wolf and you're strong, and then if you're not those things, or if you not naturally feel like that is you, then it's really, really easy to believe that leadership is just something that comes natural to some people or is only reserved for certain people. But you can actually change who you are as a boss, but it's not that you have to be a certain person. You just, you can be yourself, but you just have to learn a few skills and get into a few habits. And it's not just something that you are or aren't.
And presumably that's the first part of the boss method is well, and the second part from what you said, is working out who you are and what you want it to be like, what you want it to be like. Is that the intention? Yeah,
exactly. And I think I just thought another myth is that you somehow feel that you have to know all the answers. You always have to have all the answers at all times. You have to be able to say the right thing in every moment. And as long or as soon as you don't know the right thing or you say the wrong thing, then you're a bad boss and you're not a leader. But it's just not, we're all human, whether you're a leader or not.
Yes, yeah. So we said at the beginning that we were going to find out what one thing every boss should stop doing and one thing they should start doing. So now seems like a good enough time as any to discuss.
Okay.
What are those things?
Okay. Can I give you two things they should stop doing?
Absolutely.
Well, the first one is to avoid hard conversations, because I think a lot of people do. Because it's an underlying fear of conflict and a desire to be liked. Because who of us, who goes out there with the chance of being disliked or saying the wrong thing, and then it impacts the team dynamic. So I think avoiding hard conversations is, in the long term, quite a bad thing, because it means you possibly let things slip in the team. So if there is someone that's not pulling their weight, but you are not quite brave enough to have that conversation and you just hope that it will fix itself, it probably won't, because that person will keep doing what they're doing and the other members in the team are watching. And that is probably the most crucial bit about avoiding those hard conversations. You think you get away with it, but you're not, because your team is always watching.
Yes. One of our co-founders, David McLeod, always says you get what you walk past. And
I like that. Yeah. Oh, I like that. I'm going to write that down. And the other thing bosses should stop doing is doing everything themselves. And I think especially a founder, a small business owner, so someone that gave birth to the baby, if you want, to the business baby, for them it's particularly hard to at one point say, no, I have to stop doing, at least to a degree, and I have to let go and give other people the chance to do something, because it's burning you out. It's withholding the chance for your team to feel fulfilled and to get that autonomy. So yeah, these would be the two things: to avoid hard conversations and do everything themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
So those are the things that they need to stop doing.
Yeah.
And
yes.
What's the one thing, or are there two, that they need to start doing?
Now let's stay with one. I don't want to confuse anyone. And I'm German. I feel like I have to stick to the numbers I say at the beginning. No, and that is, if they aren't already, it's absolutely to make time for those one-to-one conversations. Because in those conversations, they give you so much opportunity to set clear expectations. So it's a way to avoid those hard conversations by setting the clear expectations up front, because then you don't need to have the the hard conversation afterwards when they didn't do what you wanted them to do because they didn't know what you wanted them to do. And yeah, in those one-to-one meetings, you can also mention their wins. You can mention that you notice their progress. You can find out more about the people you work with. And that's just really, really important for both you to build that trust with them, but also for you to start to trust them, find out about their strength, and so on. And yeah, put those one-to-ones in the diary and make sure they happen, because so many business owners that I speak to, they say, oh yeah, it's in the diary, but then something comes up and, oh yeah, we rescheduled, oh, we had to cancel that one, we had to cut that one short. But that's exactly how you don't exactly build a great team morale, because then you're sending the message, our one-to-one time is not important to me. And so absolutely make that time, stick to those one-to-one meetings, and they will, especially if you haven't done them before, the first few will feel awkward. I'm not going to lie, but the first ones will you will feel awkward. Your team will feel awkward because it's all like, yeah, we're now here. I don't know what to say. But if you keep doing them, people will expect them. You will get better at them. You will know what questions to ask. But yeah, like every habit, you have to start somewhere and it will get easier as you go.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. So another question then about what leaders can do to improve engagement more generally. And when we were preparing, you were talking about, without throwing money at the problem necessarily. And I think that's, probably music to people's ears. How can you be in front and it not cost you anything?
No, and I hear that so often when I talk to people and they're worried about how engaged their team is. And they say, oh, I just can't pay them more. Well, the good news is you don't have to. I mean, you probably know those statistics, Jesus, better than I do. But yeah, I think in 2024, Gallup did a survey to find out why people leave their job. And only 16%, so 1/6, stated it was because of the money. So the good news about that is that 84% left for other reasons. And the most important reason is a lack of purpose. People just want to feel seen. They want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel empowered. It's like any family member, really. Everybody wants to feel special sometimes. So if you can give them purpose and meaningful work, and I know you can't just suddenly find meaningful work for everyone, you will still need to do some data entry work and maybe more admin focused work. And I completely get that. But if you can maybe show your member of staff why that is important for the bigger goals. So if they know their role in the bigger and wider company goals, that can already help them feel more appreciated and feel important. Also, things like growth opportunities. And again, I understand that in small businesses, the hierarchies are quite flat. So you can't promote everyone to senior manager. But can you give them stretch tasks? So can you give them tasks that make them, be a bit brave? Or can you encourage them to take ownership of a project? Can you put them in charge of a certain client or something? Also, recognize and appreciate when they do something really well. And it might just be something like, you know what, I've really noticed that you, I don't know, filled up the coffee machine every day. Things like that. So if you spot those little things, your team will thank you because they will notice that you notice what they do. And then a really big one is also to fix your meetings. Because there's so many meetings in offices around the country that don't need to happen. It's this old saying, this meeting could have been an email. And a lot of meetings could be an email. So if you have something like a weekly marketing meeting, Does that really need to happen? Is there an actual structure to that meeting? Could it be shorter? Could it be in a different format? And so on. So that goes back to, I guess, the first S of the boss method, to constantly look at what's happening in your business and see if it's working or not, and can it be improved.
Mm-hmm. So sort of building on that, why do you think so many people are disengaged at work? And does it,
Okay.
I guess my other question is, does it differ between small businesses and sort of large businesses? Obviously, we talked about business owners who never plan to be bosses, who tend to be bosses of smaller organizations. Are they having a different experience than bosses of bigger organizations?
Ooh, I think so. So in terms of small business owners, I think the main difference for how they operate, or I guess the resources they have available, if you have bigger, multi-thousand member teams, they obviously have a lot more money available to them and more time available than, say, someone who has a 15 team members team as well. So that's probably the biggest difference. But why are people disengaged at work right now? I'd like to blame the pandemic. It's obviously not that simple, but I think what the pandemic definitely did for us is it showed us that there is life outside of work. I think before 2020, we just went to work Monday to Friday because that was what was expected. And then suddenly we had this pattern interrupt that forced all of us to stay at home. And suddenly we quite liked the idea of having a life outside the office. And now it just needs more to get us excited again about that job, and it needs a purpose. And you want more from your job than just a monthly paycheck. You want to feel like you matter and like you're not just a number. So that's probably the big thing. And then because that already creates a certain, I guess, testiness. If you're like, well, I wonder if I like my job or not, then things like having poor communication in the workplace, or getting no feedback from your boss, or having no growth potential, or just unclear leadership, that just adds to the mix of frustration.
Yes, yeah. So if businesses are losing great people, where would you be telling them to look?
The first and main thing is, and I'm afraid people won't want to hear this, but it's probably the mirror. So to look at their own behavior as a boss. And I'm not saying that every member of staff leaves because of their boss. I want to put that out there straight away. But those are the opportunities, and probably those little taps on the shoulder when you should look at your culture, your team culture. Is it a safe culture that you have created? Is it motivating? Is it fair? Are you maybe only talking to and rewarding a certain type of person? Are you ignoring others? Are people's roles clear? Does everyone know what's expected of them? And do people feel like they're meta? So if you're losing a great person, that should be your warning sign to be like, okay, what's going on? I mean, a lot of businesses hopefully have those exit interviews where they actually find out what the real reason is. But not every team member that might be leaving might be honest. But yeah, it's to critically look at yourself, I'd say.
Yeah, I like that. I like the mirror.
I mean, again, I don't want to talk anyone into believing that it's all their fault, because they might just move to another country or have a baby or whatever. It could just be something that is completely detached from you. But yeah, it's definitely a good chance to critically observe what's going on in your business.
Yes, yeah. So let's go back to one of the things that we talked about bosses should stop doing, and that's avoiding hard conversations. And just sort of explore that a bit more. We've just got 2 or 3 minutes before the end of the show, but why do you think people do avoid those conversations? I think, it's true in all organizations, large and small, that people avoid that, and they don't sort of set boundaries. They don't have those hard conversations, and like we said, they walk past stuff that they don't agree with, but they don't actually say anything about it. Why do you think that's the case?
It's probably in most cases a fear of conflict, because not many of us walk around saying, oh, today I'm gonna cause a conflict with someone. But it's also, we all deep down have that desire to be liked. We all nobody sets out to be a bad boss today. And probably one of the other myths we've been sold about leadership is that being nice means being liked. But that's not necessarily true, because if you think back to your favorite teacher at school, they probably weren't always just nice, or they let you, draw on the walls or jump on the table. They set very clear boundaries, what's allowed in the classroom and what isn't, and you still think of them as the best teacher ever. So confusing kindness with weakness is probably part of the problem. And then also maybe a lack of confidence and skills in how to have a productive conversation without just criticizing, or without, coming across as the meanie as well. So yeah, probably a mix of those.
Yes, yeah. And probably an area for people to work on in conjunction with that mirror.
Yeah. Practice those hard conversations with yourself in the mirror.
Exactly. So we've just got a couple of minutes left. Any final sort of thoughts or tips for our listeners?
Well, one thing that I always like to say to people is you don't need fixing. You just need a strategy, because I think a lot of people out there, especially people that already are overwhelmed because they're wearing too many hats and they don't have any time, and then maybe their family at home is complaining that they're working too much, and at work everyone just wants them. So it's really, really easy to feel a bit inadequate and like you're less than. So this is me just saying you don't need fixing. You're absolutely good as you are. You just need a strategy, and you already have what it takes.
Lovely. Thank you, Claudia. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And just to let you know, next week it's me again, and my guest will be Laurie McNaughton, who's a business coach, and we're going to be talking about trust, collaboration, and shared purpose.
Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.